Emperor Haile Selassie. The Lion of Judah and the Struggle for Ethiopia. Haile Selassie was born Tafari Makonnen in 1892 in Ayersagoro, Ethiopia. From a young age, he was educated in languages, diplomacy, and governance, unusual training for an African royal at the time. In 1930, he was crowned Emperor of Ethiopia, taking the throne as one of the few African rulers leading an independent nation during the age of European colonial domination. His reign quickly faced its greatest test. In 1935, fascist Italy under Benito Mussolini invaded Ethiopia, seeking to expand its empire. Ethiopian forces resisted bravely but were overwhelmed by modern weapons and chemical attacks. In 1936, Haile Selassie went into exile, traveling to the League of Nations in Geneva, where he delivered a historic speech warning the world that aggression against Ethiopia threatened global peace. His words would later be remembered as a prophetic warning before World War II. During World War II, with British support and Ethiopian resistance fighters known as the Arbegnyoch, Selassie returned to Ethiopia in 1941, reclaiming the throne and restoring independence. His return made Ethiopia a symbol of African resistance to colonial rule. In the decades that followed, Haile Selassie worked to modernize Ethiopia, expanding education, infrastructure, and international diplomacy. In 1963, he hosted the founding of the Organization of African Unity in Addis Ababa, helping unite newly independent African states. However, by the early 1970s, famine, economic hardship, and political dissatisfaction weakened his rule. In 1974, he was overthrown by a military junta known as the Derg. Haile Selassie died in 1975 under controversial circumstances. Today, he remains a complex and powerful historical figure, revered by many as a symbol of African sovereignty and remembered globally as a central figure in both Ethiopian history and the Rastafarian movement. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Thomas Sankara and Ibrahim Traoré, two soldiers, one nation, different eras. In 1983, at just 33 years old, Thomas Sankara seized power and renamed Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, the land of upright people. He cut government salaries, rejected luxury cars, promoted women's rights, vaccinated over 2 million children, and pushed African self-reliance. He became a symbol of bold, fearless leadership. But Sankara made a critical mistake. He ruled fast and hard, limiting political opposition and relying heavily on revolutionary committees. Some unions, traditional leaders, and even members of the military felt pushed aside. He transformed the nation rapidly, but didn't fully secure unity inside the armed forces. In 1987, he was assassinated in a coup led by his best friend. Fast forward to 2022. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, another young military officer, takes power during a severe security crisis. Armed groups controlled large parts of Burkina Faso. The country needed stability. Unlike Sankara, Traoré's first focus has been security before social revolution. He has concentrated on reorganizing the military, strengthening internal alliances, and mobilizing civilian volunteers to defend territory. Where Sankara moved to rapidly reshape society, Traoré appears to be consolidating power carefully, especially within the army. The lesson of 1987 is clear. Vision without internal stability can be dangerous. Sankara inspired a continent. Traoré is navigating a battlefield. One led a revolution of ideas. The other is fighting for state survival. History will decide how this chapter ends. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Martin Luther King Jr., the dream that changed America. In the mid-20th century, the United States was deeply divided by racial segregation. In the South, Black Americans were forced to use separate schools, buses, restaurants, and even drinking fountains. These laws, known as Jim Crow, were enforced with violence and intimidation. Into this divided nation stepped a young Baptist minister from Atlanta, Martin Luther King Jr. In 1955, after Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, King helped lead the Montgomery bus boycott. For 381 days, Black residents refused to ride city buses. The boycott ended with a Supreme Court ruling declaring bus segregation unconstitutional. King became a national leader. He believed in nonviolent resistance, inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. Instead of meeting hatred with violence, he organized marches, boycotts, and peaceful protests. In 1963, King led the March on Washington, where more than 250,000 people gathered at the Lincoln Memorial. There, he delivered his most famous speech, "I Have a Dream." He spoke of a future where people would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. The speech became one of the most powerful moments in American history. In 1964, the Civil Rights Act was passed, outlawing segregation in public places. King received the Nobel Peace Prize that same year. But the struggle was far from over. On April 4th, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. He was only 39 years old. His death sparked grief and protests across the nation. Yet his legacy endured. King's leadership helped dismantle legalized segregation and inspired civil rights movements around the world. Martin Luther King Jr. did not just dream of equality. He forced a nation to confront injustice and changed history forever. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. The Marave Kingdom, the empire before Nyasaland. Long before Nyasaland became a British protectorate, the Marave Kingdom dominated the region around Lake Malawi. Emerging in the late 15th century, the Marave were a powerful Bantu-speaking people who migrated into the area from the Congo Basin, bringing with them strong political organization and advanced ironworking skills. At its height in the 16th and 17th centuries, the Marave Kingdom controlled vast territory across present-day Malawi, eastern Zambia, and northern Mozambique. The name Malawi itself is believed to come from Marave, meaning flames, possibly referring to the fires of iron smelting that lit the night skies. The kingdom was ruled by a powerful king known as the Kalonga, supported by chiefs and clan leaders who governed local communities. Authority was reinforced through kinship ties, tribute systems, and control of trade routes. The Marave were skilled farmers, cultivating millet and sorghum, and their iron tools made agriculture and warfare more effective. Trade connected the Marave Kingdom to the Swahili coast and the Indian Ocean world. Ivory and iron goods were exchanged for cloth, beads, and other foreign items. This trade brought wealth and influence, but also exposed the region to growing external pressures. From the 18th century onward, the Marave Kingdom began to weaken due to internal divisions, Ngoni invasions, and the expanding East African slave trade. By the 19th century, the once powerful kingdom had fragmented into smaller chiefdoms. When the British declared Nyasaland a protectorate in 1891, the Marave political system had already collapsed. Yet its legacy endured. The name Malawi, the cultural traditions of the Chiwa people, and the memory of the Kalonga all trace back to the Marave Kingdom. A reminder that long before colonial rule, a powerful African state shaped the region's history. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the man who redefined leadership in Nigeria. Chief Obafemi Awolowo was born on March 6, 1909, in Ikenne, in what is now Ogun State, Nigeria, under British colonial rule. Nigeria was not yet a nation, but a collection of territories governed for imperial interests. Most Africans had little access to education, political power, or economic opportunity. From humble beginnings, Awolowo understood early that knowledge would be the key to freedom. Driven by discipline and vision, Awolowo educated himself through hardship, eventually studying law in London. There, he absorbed ideas of democracy, federalism, and self-rule. But unlike many who stayed abroad, Awolowo returned home with a clear mission: to use ideas, planning, and institutions, not violence, to transform society. In the 1950s, he emerged as the leader of the Action Group and premier of Nigeria's western region. What followed was revolutionary. Awolowo introduced free primary education, free health care for children, rural development programs, and modern infrastructure. His policies lifted millions out of ignorance and poverty, proving that African-led governance could deliver real progress. Awolowo believed Nigeria's survival depended on true federalism, regional autonomy, and social welfare. These ideas often put him at odds with rivals at the national level. In the early 1960s, political conflict led to his imprisonment on controversial charges, removing one of Nigeria's sharpest minds from power at a critical moment. Released during the Nigerian Civil War, Awolowo served as Federal Commissioner for Finance, helping stabilize the economy during one of the nation's darkest periods. Though he never became president, his ideas shaped Nigeria more than many who held the office. Chief Obafemi Awolowo died in 1987, remembered as a principled leader, an intellectual giant, and a rare example of politics driven by vision rather than greed. His legacy endures in classrooms, policies, and the belief that leadership should serve the people. The purpose of government is the happiness of the people. Obafemi Awolowo. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Kenneth Kaunda, the conscience of Zambia's independence. Kenneth David Kaunda was born in 1924 in Chinsali, in what was then northern Rhodesia. The son of a missionary and teacher, he grew up in a deeply religious household that emphasized discipline, education, and service. Living under British colonial rule, Kaunda witnessed racial inequality and the political exclusion of Africans, experiences that shaped his moral outlook from an early age. In the 1950s, Kaunda became active in nationalist politics, believing that freedom could not be postponed. He joined the African National Congress of Northern Rhodesia, but soon grew frustrated with its cautious approach. In 1958, he broke away to form the Zambia African National Congress, a more militant movement demanding immediate self-rule. His activism led to repeated arrests and long periods of imprisonment. Rather than silencing him, prison strengthened Kaunda's resolve. He believed independence had to be achieved without hatred. Drawing on Christian ethics and African humanism, he developed a philosophy later known as Zambian humanism, which emphasized unity, forgiveness, and social responsibility. In 1964, Northern Rhodesia became the independent nation of Zambia, and Kaunda was elected its first president. He faced enormous challenges, an economy dependent on copper, hostile minority-ruled neighbors, and the pressures of the Cold War. Kaunda chose a non-aligned path and made Zambia a sanctuary for liberation movements fighting colonialism and apartheid in southern Africa. After 27 years in power, Kaunda accepted defeat in the 1991 elections and peacefully handed over authority, a rare act on the continent at the time. In his later years, he He remained a moral voice, advocating democracy, HIV/AIDS awareness, and reconciliation. Kenneth Kaunda died in 2021, remembered not only as Zambia's founding father, but as a leader who believed that political power must always be guided by conscience. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Ahmed Sékou Touré, the African leader who said no to empire. Ahmed Sékou Touré was born on January 9, 1922, in Farana, in what was then French Guinea. At the time, Guinea was tightly controlled by France, its economy run for colonial benefit, and its people denied real political power. Like much of Africa, Guinea was expected to obey, not to decide its own future. But Sékou Touré refused that fate. As a young man, he emerged through the labor movement, organizing workers and challenging colonial authority. Influenced by Pan-Africanism and African nationalism, he believed that dignity and freedom were non-negotiable. His rise alarmed French officials, who saw in him a leader unwilling to compromise. In 1958, France offered its African colonies a choice: accept limited autonomy under French control or vote no and face immediate independence, with consequences. Most territories voted yes, fearing economic punishment. Guinea did not. Led by Ahmed Sékou Touré, Guinea voted no. Overnight, France withdrew its administrators, dismantled infrastructure, and cut aid, hoping the new nation would collapse. Instead, Guinea stood firm. Sékou Touré declared that, "We prefer poverty in freedom to riches in slavery." Guinea became the first French colony in sub-Saharan Africa to gain full independence. As president, Sékou Touré pursued a path of African socialism and complete sovereignty. He rejected foreign domination, supported liberation movements across Africa, and became a symbol of resistance to neo-colonialism. But his rule also grew increasingly authoritarian. Political opponents were imprisoned, and fear became part of daily life, staining his revolutionary legacy. Ahmed Sékou Touré died in 1984. He remains one of Africa's most complex leaders, a man who inspired a continent by defying empire, yet whose methods divided his own people. We prefer poverty and freedom to riches in slavery. Ahmed Sékou Touré. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Joshua Nkomo, the father of Zimbabwean nationalism. Joshua Mkabuko Nyongolo Nkomo was born in 1917 in Semokwe, in what was then southern Rhodesia. He grew up under colonial rule, where African voices were silenced and land was taken by force. From an early age, Nkomo believed that dignity and equality were not privileges, but rights. In the 1950s, Nkomo emerged as a powerful trade union leader, organizing African workers who were exploited in mines, railways, and farms. His ability to unite people across ethnic lines made him a national figure. In 1957, he became president of the Southern Rhodesia African National Congress, one of the first mass nationalist movements demanding majority rule. When colonial authorities banned African political parties, Nkomo did not stop. He helped form the National Democratic Party and later the Zimbabwe African People's Union, known as ZAPU. As repression increased, peaceful protest became impossible, and the struggle turned into armed resistance. ZAPU's military wing, ZIPRA, trained fighters to challenge white minority rule. Nkomo spent many years in detention, exile, and constant danger. Despite this, he remained committed to unity. Unlike many leaders of his time, he consistently warned that independence without reconciliation could destroy the nation. His vision was a Zimbabwe where all ethnic groups could live together after colonialism. After independence in 1980, political tensions between Zapu and ZANU led to violence, especially in Matabeleland. Nkomo faced persecution, but in 1987 he chose compromise over civil war by signing the Unity Accord with Robert Mugabe. This decision ended large-scale conflict and stabilized the country. Joshua Nkomo later served as vice president of Zimbabwe. When he died in 1999, he was honored as Father Zimbabwe, a man who sacrificed power for peace. His legacy is not just independence, but the difficult lesson that true leadership sometimes means choosing unity over revenge. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Almamy Suluku, the warrior king of the Biriwa Kingdom. Almamy Suluku was one of the most powerful African rulers of the 19th century, a king whose authority stretched across the interior of what is now Sierra Leone. At a time when African societies were under pressure from expanding empires, rival kingdoms, and European intrusion, Suluku rose as the supreme ruler of the Biriwa Kingdom, also known as the Susu-led state of northern Sierra Leone. Suluku was not born into peace. He came to power in an era defined by warfare, slave raids, and competition over trade routes linking the interior to the coast. Through military skill, discipline, and strategic alliances, he united scattered territories and declared himself Almamy, a title combining political power with Islamic authority. This gave his rule both spiritual legitimacy and absolute command. Under Almamy Suluku, the Biriwa Kingdom became a dominant force. His armies were feared across the region, enforcing order, expanding borders, and controlling vital trade networks that dealt in kola nuts, livestock, gold, and enslaved people, reflecting the harsh realities of the era. Towns paid tribute, and rival rulers either submitted or were defeated. Suluku ruled with strict authority, law and order were enforced without mercy, and loyalty was demanded above all else. While his methods were severe, they brought stability to a region long fractured by conflict. To his supporters, he was a protector of Islam and African sovereignty. To his enemies, he was an unstoppable warlord. By the late 19th century, British colonial forces began pushing inland from the coast, determined to dismantle powerful African states. Almamy Suluku resisted foreign domination, refusing to surrender his authority or bow to European rule. His independence made him a threat to colonial ambitions. Eventually, British forces moved against him. After military confrontation and political pressure, Suluku was defeated and captured. He was exiled, marking the fall of one of the last powerful indigenous kingdoms in Sierra Leone's interior. Almamy Suluku died in exile in 1906, but his legacy endured. He is remembered as a symbol of African resistance, centralized power, and pre-colonial statecraft, a ruler who fought to preserve sovereignty in an age when Africa's freedom was being violently stripped away. Before colonial rule, African kings ruled nations of strength, law, and vision. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment, which story do you want us to make a video about next? Julius Nyerere, the teacher who reimagined Africa. Julius Kambaraja Nyerere was born in 1922 in Butiama, in what was then Tanganyika, under British colonial rule. Tanganyika was governed for foreign interests, while Africans had little say over their land, labor, or future. From a young age, Nyerere believed freedom had to be earned through unity and moral leadership. A trained teacher, Nyerere believed education was the foundation of liberation. After studying in Uganda and later in Britain, he returned home convinced that independence must come without hatred or racial revenge. He founded the Tanganyika African National Union, TANU, organizing farmers, workers, and students into a peaceful mass movement. In 1961, Tanganyika gained independence from Britain, and Nyerere became prime minister. 3 years later, after union with Zanzibar, the nation of Tanzania was born, with Nyerere as its first president. Unlike many leaders of his era, he rejected personal wealth and lived simply, earning the name Mwalimu, the teacher. Nyerere introduced Ujamaa, a vision of African socialism based on community, equality, and self-reliance. Villages were reorganized to share resources, expand education, and improve healthcare. While the policy achieved major gains in literacy and national unity, it also faced economic challenges and criticism. Internationally, Nyerere became Africa's moral voice. He supported liberation movements in southern Africa, offering refuge to fighters from South Africa, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe, even when it strained Tanzania's economy. In 1985, Julius Nyerere voluntarily stepped down from power.
My fellow citizens, after much reflection, I decided to resign president. I am confident in operation to serve.
A rare act in post-colonial Africa. He died in 1999, remembered not as a conqueror, but as a principled leader who believed that dignity mattered more than power. A man who uses power to dominate others is a poor leader. Julius Nyerere. If you want more real, verified historical stories like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment, which story do you want us to make a video about next? The Mau Mau Uprising, Kenya's blood-stained road to freedom. Kenya in the early 20th century was a land under British colonial rule, where fertile lands were seized and handed to white settlers, while African communities, especially the Kikuyu, were pushed into overcrowded reserves. Forced labor, heavy taxation, and racial laws turned daily life into a struggle for survival. Out of this injustice rose resistance. In the 1950s, the Mau Mau movement emerged, rooted mainly among the Kikuyu people but supported by many across Kenya. It was not a rebellion for chaos. It was a fight to reclaim land, dignity, and freedom. Fighters retreated into forests, swore sacred oaths, and waged guerrilla warfare against colonial forces. The British response was brutal. In 1952, a state of emergency was declared. Thousands were arrested, villages were burned, and detention camps were created. Torture, executions, and collective punishment became tools of colonial control, even as Britain claimed to be bringing civilization. One man came to symbolize Kenya's struggle, Jomo Kenyatta. Though his direct role in the Mau Mau remains debated, he was arrested and imprisoned as a nationalist leader. His detention only strengthened the demand for independence. Despite overwhelming force, the Mau Mau uprising shattered the myth of British benevolence. It forced the world to confront the violence of colonialism and made continued rule impossible. In 1963, Kenya finally gained independence. The sacrifices of the Mau Mau fighters, many unnamed, paved the way for freedom. For decades, their story was suppressed, but today they are recognized as heroes who dared to fight empire. Our children may learn about the heroes of the past. Their courage will shape the future. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the man who gave Nigeria its voice. Nnamdi Azikiwe was born on November 16, 1904, in Zungeru, in what was then northern Nigeria during British colonial rule. Nigeria was not yet a nation, but a collection of territories governed for imperial benefit. Africans had little political power, and decisions about their future were made far from their own land. Azikiwe refused to accept silence. Educated in the United States, he absorbed ideas of freedom, self-rule, and Pan-Africanism. When he returned to Nigeria in the 1930s, he carried more than degrees. He carried a mission. Through powerful newspapers like the West African Pilot, Azikiwe used words as weapons, awakening political consciousness across Nigeria. Known as Zik of Africa, he inspired a generation to believe that independence was possible. He helped build nationalist movements that demanded an end to colonial domination and the right of Nigerians to govern themselves. His speeches cut across ethnic and regional lines, promoting unity in a deeply diverse land. In 1960, Nigeria finally gained independence from Britain. Nnamdi Azikiwe became the country's first governor-general and later its first president. Though his role was largely ceremonial, his influence was profound. He symbolized freedom, dignity, and African self-determination. But independence did not bring peace. Political tensions, ethnic rivalries, and military coups soon shook the young nation. In 1966, Nigeria's first republic collapsed. Azikiwe withdrew from active politics, watching as the country struggled to find its path. Nnamdi Azikiwe died in 1996, but his legacy endures. He is remembered as the father of Nigerian nationalism, a man who proved that the pen could challenge empire and that ideas could build a nation. Show the light, and the people will find the way. Nnamdi Azikiwe. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Steve Biko, the voice that awakened Black South Africa. Steve Bantu Biko was born on December 18, 1946, in King Williamstown, South Africa, under the brutal system of apartheid. From birth, Black South Africans were forced to live as second-class citizens in their own land, segregated, silenced, and controlled by racist laws designed to crush dignity and resistance. But Biko refused to accept this as normal. As a young student, he quickly saw that apartheid did not only control land and movement, it controlled the mind. While studying medicine at the University of Natal, Biko helped found the South African Students' Organization, SASO, a movement led by Black students for Black students. From this grew his most powerful idea, Black consciousness. Black consciousness taught a simple but dangerous truth. Black people must first free their minds before they could free their land. Biko urged Black South Africans to reject inferiority, reclaim pride in their identity, and stand up without waiting for approval from white liberals. His words ignited confidence in a generation raised under oppression. The apartheid government saw him as a threat. In 1973, Steve Biko was banned, restricted from speaking publicly, meeting with groups, or leaving his hometown. Yet even in silence, his ideas spread. Black consciousness inspired workers, students, and youth movements across the country, laying the psychological foundation for future uprisings, including the 1976 Soweto Uprising. In August 1977, Biko was arrested by apartheid security police. He was brutally beaten during interrogation and left untreated. On September 12, 1977, Steve Biko died in police custody at just 30 years old. The regime claimed it was an accident, but the world knew the truth. His death exposed the cruelty of apartheid to the globe. Today, Steve Biko is remembered not just as a martyr, but as the man who taught South Africa to believe in itself again. His message remains timeless. Freedom begins in the mind. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Steve Biko. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. The Tapa, Nupi, people, Nigeria's river kingdom that shaped history. Long before colonial borders were drawn, the Tapa, also known as the Nupi people, built one of the most influential river civilizations in what is now central Nigeria. Centered around the Niger and Kaduna rivers, their homeland became a crossroads of trade, culture, and power. By the 15th century, the Nupe had formed a strong state with organized kingship, skilled armies, and thriving towns such as Bida. which later became their political and cultural heart. The rivers were not just waterways, they were lifelines that carried goods, ideas, and people across West Africa. The Tapa people were renowned artisans. Their brass work, glass beads, weaving, and wood carving traveled far beyond their borders, prized by neighboring kingdoms. Nupe craftsmen influenced artistic traditions across the region, leaving marks still visible in Nigerian culture today. Politically, the Nupe kingdom became a major force. In the 16th century, it expanded under powerful rulers, engaging in both warfare and diplomacy with the Oyo Empire, Hausa states, and other West African powers. Control of trade routes brought wealth, but also enemies. In the early 19th century, the Nupe region was shaken by the Fulani Jihad, which reshaped much of northern Nigeria. Nupe lands were drawn into new Islamic emirates, transforming their political system while preserving core traditions, language, and identity. When British colonial rule arrived in the late 19th century, Nupe territory was absorbed into the Protectorate of Northern Nigeria. Colonial policies weakened traditional authority, but the Nupe people endured, adapting without losing their cultural soul. Today, the Tapa, Nupe people, remain a vital part of Nigeria's history. Their language, craftsmanship, festivals, and river-based heritage stand as proof that long before modern Nigeria existed, sophisticated African societies were already shaping the region's destiny. Our rivers carried more than water, they carried civilization. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Kwame Nkrumah, the African leader who dreamed of a united continent. Kwame Nkrumah was born in 1909 in the British colony of the Gold Coast, a land rich in resources but ruled by foreign power. Like much of Africa, its people worked hard, yet their future was decided in European capitals. From a young age, Nkrumah believed this injustice could not last. He left Africa to study in the United States and later in Britain, where he was exposed to ideas of freedom, Pan-Africanism, and self-determination. While abroad, Nkrumah became convinced of one powerful truth: Africa would never be free unless Africans ruled themselves and stood united. In 1947, he returned home and quickly emerged as a bold nationalist voice. He founded the Convention People's Party, CPP, with a radical demand: self-government now. His message electrified workers, farmers, and the youth, but alarmed British colonial authorities. Nkrumah was arrested and imprisoned for leading protests, yet from his prison cell, he won a landslide election victory. In 1957, the impossible happened. The Gold Coast became Ghana, the first sub-Saharan African nation to gain independence from colonial rule. Kwame Nkrumah became its first prime minister, declaring that Ghana's freedom was meaningless unless it was linked to the total liberation of Africa. As president, Nkrumah pushed ambitious reforms. He invested in education, infrastructure, and industrialization, building schools, factories, and the Akosombo Dam. Internationally, he became the loudest voice for African unity, helping to found the Organization of African Unity and supporting liberation movements across the continent. But his vision made him enemies. Western powers feared his socialist leanings and Pan-African influence. At home, critics accused him of authoritarianism. In 1966, while Nkrumah was abroad, a military coup, backed by foreign interests, overthrew his government. Kwame Nkrumah died in exile in 1972, yet his ideas live on. Today, he is remembered as the father of Ghana's independence and one of Africa's greatest visionaries, a man who dared to imagine a united, self-reliant Africa. Africa must unite. Kwame Nkrumah. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Queen Nzinga, the warrior queen who defied empires. Queen Nzinga Mbande was born in 1583 in the Kingdom of Ndongo, in present-day Angola, at a time when Portuguese expansion and the transatlantic slave trade were tearing Central Africa apart. European powers sought land, labor, and control, and African kingdoms were under constant threat. Nzinga was raised not just as royalty, but as a strategist. She was trained in diplomacy, warfare, and statecraft, skills rarely taught to women at the time. From an early age, she understood that survival meant strength, intelligence, and unity. In 1624, Nzinga became Queen of Ndongo and later Matamba. Facing relentless Portuguese aggression, she refused to submit. During one famous negotiation, when the Portuguese governor offered her no chair to humiliate her, Nzinga ordered one of her attendants to kneel, then calmly sat on the attendant's back, meeting the governor eye to eye. The message was clear. She would not bow to empire. Queen Nzinga formed alliances, reorganized her armies, and used guerrilla warfare to resist Portuguese forces for decades. She welcomed escaped enslaved Africans into her kingdom, turning them into soldiers and citizens. Under her rule, Matamba became a powerful refuge and resistance state. Even as she aged, Nzinga never stopped fighting. She ruled for over 40 years, leading troops into battle well into her 60s. Only near the end of her life did she negotiate peace on her own terms. Queen Nzinga died in 1663, but her legacy endures. She is remembered as one of Africa's greatest military strategists and a symbol of resistance against slavery, colonialism, and patriarchy. I am the one who commands. Queen Nzinga. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Thomas Sankara, Africa's revolutionary who dared to dream. Thomas Sankara was born on December 21, 1949, in what was then Upper Volta, a poor West African country trapped in the grip of neo-colonialism. Foreign interests controlled the economy, corruption was widespread, and the people remained among the poorest in the world. Sankara believed this was not Africa's destiny. A young army officer with sharp intelligence and radical ideas, Sankara rose quickly through the ranks. He rejected luxury, embraced discipline, and spoke openly against imperialism. To the youth, he was hope. To the elites, he was dangerous. In 1983, at just 33 years old, Thomas Sankara came to power through a popular revolution. One of his first acts shocked the world. He renamed the country Burkina Faso, meaning land of upright people. He cut his own salary, sold government luxury cars, and demanded leaders live like the citizens they served. Sankara launched bold reforms. He vaccinated millions of children, redistributed land to farmers, promoted local industries, and declared that Africa must stop begging the West. He openly criticized international debt, calling it a modern form of slavery. Even more radical, he championed women's rights, banning forced marriages, appointing women to leadership, and insisting that Africa could not be free while women were oppressed. But his independence came at a cost. Sankara made powerful enemies, both at home and abroad. His refusal to bow to foreign powers, combined with his revolutionary ideas, isolated Burkina Faso diplomatically. On October 15, 1987, Thomas Sankara was assassinated in a coup led by his close friend, Blaise Compaoré. He was just 37 years old. His body was buried in an unmarked grave, and his vision was silenced, at least for a time. Today, Thomas Sankara is remembered as Africa's Che Guevara, a leader who proved that integrity, courage, and self-reliance were possible. They killed the man, but across Africa, his ideas are rising again. You cannot carry out fundamental change without a certain amount of madness. Thomas Sankara. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Resisting colonial rule, how the Yoruba defied British control. In the late 19th century, as European powers scrambled to control Africa, the Yoruba people of what is now southwestern Nigeria faced growing pressure from British colonial expansion. But Yoruba society was not weak or disorganized. It was made up of powerful city-states like Ibadan, Ijebu, Oyo, and Egba, each with strong political systems, warrior traditions, and deep-rooted authority structures led by kings, councils, and chiefs. When the British began pushing inland after taking control of the coast, they met resistance. One of the strongest opponents was the Ijebu kingdom. For decades, the Ijebu blocked British trade routes into the interior, refusing foreign interference and protecting their sovereignty. In 1892, the British launched a military invasion using Maxim guns. Despite fierce resistance, Ijebu was defeated, but not broken. Elsewhere, resistance took different forms. The Egba people, centered in Abeokuta, resisted British control through diplomacy, protest, and negotiation. They rejected unfair treaties, challenged colonial taxes, and defended their political independence longer than many neighboring regions. Yoruba resistance was not only military. Traditional rulers, priests, and merchants used economic pressure, legal challenges, and cultural unity to resist indirect rule. Even when colonial control was imposed, it was constantly negotiated, contested, and reshaped by Yoruba leaders. Colonial rule disrupted Yoruba society, but it never erased it. Language, religion, kingship, and traditions survived and adapted. The resistance of the Yoruba people reminds us that colonialism in Africa was never passively accepted. It was challenged on the battlefield, at negotiation tables, and in everyday life. Their story is one of resilience, strategy, and the determination to protect identity in the face of empire. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Patrice Lumumba, the voice they could not silence. Patrice Emery Lumumba was born on July 2, 1925, in Katanga, in the Belgian Congo, at a time when Congolese people lived under one of the harshest colonial systems in Africa. Belgium controlled the land, the wealth, and the lives of the people. Africans worked, suffered, and died with no voice of their own. Lumumba refused to accept this reality. Educated, outspoken, and deeply patriotic, he rose from being a postal worker to becoming a national leader. In the late 1950s, he founded the Mouvement National Congolais, MNC, demanding one united Congo, not a country divided by ethnicity or controlled by foreign powers. His message was simple but dangerous. Congo must belong to Congolese people. On June 30th, 1960, Congo finally gained independence. Patrice Lumumba became the nation's first democratically elected prime minister. During the independence ceremony, while Belgian officials praised their civilizing mission, Lumumba delivered a fearless speech that shocked the world. He exposed the beatings, forced labor, racism, and humiliation Congolese people endured under colonial rule. Africans celebrated his courage. Western powers marked him as a problem. Almost immediately, Congo was destabilized. Belgium backed the secession of Katanga, a mineral-rich region vital to Western industries. When Lumumba asked the United Nations for protection and received little support, he turned to the Soviet Union during the height of the Cold War. That decision sealed his fate. In September 1960, Lumumba was overthrown in a coup led by Joseph Mobutu, with backing from the United States and Belgium. He was imprisoned, tortured, and secretly transferred to Katanga. On January 17, 1961, Patrice Lumumba was executed. His body was destroyed to hide the crime. He was just 35 years old, but his vision did not die. Today, Patrice Lumumba stands as a powerful symbol of African independence, Pan-African unity, and the cost of defying imperial power. His enemies killed the man, but they could not kill his ideas. Africa will write its own history, and it will be a history of glory. Patrice Lumumba. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Africa's most fearless warrior queen, Queen Amina of Zazzau, warrior queen of the Hausa states, 16th century West Africa. In the 16th century, long before colonial borders existed, the city-state of Zazzau, in present-day northern Nigeria, rose to power under an extraordinary leader. Her name was Queen Amina. Born around 1533 into the royal family of Zazzau, Amina was trained in warfare from a young age. While royal women were often expected to rule from behind palace walls, Amina chose the battlefield. When she became queen, she did something no ruler of Zazzau had ever done. She expanded the kingdom farther than ever before. Queen Amina led her armies personally, riding at the front, armed and armored like her soldiers. Under her command, Zazzau conquered neighboring territories across the Hausa states and beyond, controlling key trade routes that carried gold, salt, cola nuts, and slaves across West Africa. Her military campaigns were not only about conquest, they were about security and prosperity. To protect her new territories, Amina ordered the construction of massive defensive walls around cities and settlements. These fortifications, known today as Ganuwar Amina, Amina's walls, can still be found across northern Nigeria. They stand as physical proof of her reign. Queen Amina ruled for more than 3 decades. Under her leadership, Zazzau became one of the most powerful states in the region, feared by enemies and respected by allies. After her death, her story lived on through oral history, songs, and legend. Today, Queen Amina is remembered not as a myth, but as a verified historical figure. A warrior queen whose leadership reshaped West African history and challenged the limits placed on women in power. If you want more real, verified African historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. King Mswati II, how Swaziland expanded and survived. In the mid-19th century, Southern Africa was being reshaped by war, migration, and powerful new kingdoms. One of the most influential leaders of this era was King Mswati II of Swaziland, today known as Eswatini. Mswati II ruled from the 1840s until his death in 1868, and under his leadership, Swaziland expanded to its largest territorial size in history. Facing pressure from Zulu power in the south and Boer settlers advancing from the west, Mswati II understood that survival depended on strength, alliances, and control of land. He reorganized the Swazi military, fortified borders, and launched campaigns that pushed Swazi influence far beyond its modern boundaries, into parts of present-day South Africa and Mozambique. At the same time, another major African power was on the move. King Mzilikazi, founder of the Ndebele nation, was leading his people northward after breaking away from the Zulu kingdom. As Mzilikazi migrated through southern Africa toward what is now Zimbabwe, his forces passed near Swazi territory. Rather than becoming enemies, Mswati II allowed Mzilikazi's people safe passage through Swazi-controlled lands. This decision was strategic. Mswati recognized that conflict would weaken both kingdoms, while cooperation preserved stability and respected African sovereignty during a time of immense upheaval. Mzilikazi would eventually establish the Ndebele kingdom in southwestern Zimbabwe, while Swaziland remained intact and independent. Mswati II's leadership helped ensure that Swaziland was never fully conquered or annexed during the colonial scramble for Africa. His diplomacy, military reforms, and regional influence shaped Southern African history in lasting ways. Today, Swaziland, now Eswatini, stands as one of the few African kingdoms that preserved its monarchy and identity, thanks in part to the strategic vision of King Mswati II. If you want more real, verified African historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. The Maroons of Jamaica, the freedom fighters who defied empire. In the 17th and 18th centuries, Jamaica was one of the most valuable colonies in the British Empire, built on sugar, slavery, and brutal control. But deep in the mountains and forests of the island, freedom was already being claimed. They were called the Maroons. The Maroons were Africans who escaped from Spanish and later British plantations after slavery was introduced to Jamaica in the 1500s. Rather than surrender or flee overseas, they chose resistance. They built independent communities in Jamaica's rugged interior, especially in the Blue Mountains, places nearly impossible for colonial troops to penetrate. Led by legendary figures like Queen Nanny, the Maroons mastered guerrilla warfare. They knew the land, used ambush tactics, secret paths, and coordinated attacks that repeatedly defeated British forces. For decades, the British tried and failed to crush them. By the early 1700s, the Maroons had become such a powerful force that the British were forced to negotiate. In 1739 and 1740, Britain signed peace treaties with the Maroons, one of the few times a European colonial power officially recognized formerly enslaved Africans as free and autonomous people. The treaties granted the Maroons land, self-rule, and freedom, while obligating them to defend their territory. Their survival reshaped Jamaican history. The Maroons proved that enslaved Africans were not passive victims, but organized, strategic, and determined fighters for freedom. Today, Maroon communities still exist in Jamaica, preserving African traditions, language, music, and resistance culture. Their story stands as one of the clearest examples of successful Black resistance to colonial rule in the Americas. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next. Antarctica, the last continent discovered. For most of human history, Antarctica existed only as a theory. Ancient Greek philosophers believed a massive southern land must exist to balance the continents in the north. They called it Terra Australis Incognita, the unknown southern land. But no one had ever seen it. For centuries, sailors feared the southern oceans. Ice, violent storms, and endless fog kept ships away. Everything changed in 1820. That year, 3 separate expeditions, led by Fabian von Bellingshausen, Russia, Edward Bransfield, Britain, and Nathaniel Palmer, United States, independently sighted the Antarctic continent. Antarctica had finally been discovered. Unlike other continents, it had no native population, no cities, and no civilizations, only ice. In the early 1900s, explorers raced south in one of history's most dangerous quests. The most famous was Roald Amundsen, who in 1911 became the first human to reach the South Pole, defeating British explorer Robert Falcon Scott by weeks. Scott reached the pole later and died with his team on the return journey. Antarctica quickly proved merciless. Temperatures dropped below -60 degrees Celsius. Winds could knock men off their feet. One mistake meant death. Despite this, nations began claiming parts of the continent. To prevent conflict, something unprecedented happened. In 1959, 12 countries signed the Antarctic Treaty. It declared Antarctica a place for peace, science, and cooperation. No military bases, no nuclear weapons, no permanent ownership. To this day, Antarctica remains the only continent governed by international agreement. Scientists now study climate change, ancient ice, and life forms that survive extreme cold. What happens in Antarctica affects the entire planet. The ice there holds Earth's climate history and its future. Antarctica is not just the coldest place on Earth. It is humanity's greatest reminder that some places are meant to be shared, protected, and respected. If you want more real, verified historical stories, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Comment which story do you want us to make a video about next.